Good afternoon, class. So today, this is Professor Maloney, sorry, and today I'm going to be creating a video recording to demonstrate, not so much demonstrate, actually to provide you an overview on the Microsoft Access portion of this class. I'm going to show you the due dates on Access from the tentative schedule of activities in Blackboard, and also show you those due dates from the MyLab IT site where you do all your class work. Okay. I mentioned 2 or 3 times already that in Microsoft Access, you do not have to do any projects. Okay. You might say, but my God, Professor, why are we not doing projects? And that's a great question. The reason you're not doing projects in Access is because a lot of students in every class these days use a Mac. And this class is not to compare a Mac, which is a Unix operating system, by the way, versus a Windows computer. That's not the point. The point is to allow every student to do what they need to do on the Microsoft Office suite of applications, which is the most widely used Office suite in the world. And Microsoft and Apple could not come to an agreement on how much Apple would pay Microsoft for Microsoft to include Microsoft Access in Office for the Mac. Okay? So, in other words, they allow the use of Excel, they allow the use of Word, they allow the use of PowerPoint in Office for the Mac. And they physically give you that software, if you download it from the library site, which I showed everybody in this class where the library site was, in Blackboard. You click the MDC library link, and then it opens up in a new page. And from that page on the right side, there's a link for you to click to download Microsoft Office 365 Pro Plus for free because you're Miami-Dade College students. But anyway, the gist of what I'm trying to say here is that so while Word and Excel and PowerPoint are in Office for the Mac, and of course they're in the Windows version, but they're not, Microsoft Access is not included in the version that's for the Mac. So as a result, I don't think it's fair to allow 30% or so of the students, because it seems about 3/10 or so of each class these days have students using Macs. And whether it's 20, 30, 40, 50, I don't really care. But I'm not going to penalize those students and make them go to a library or make them go to the MDC campus, their local MDC campus library to do that work. Because you're taking this class, you understand that it's MDC Live, and you know that MDC Live means you can take it from home, or you can take it anywhere that you're at. If you're on vacation, you can still take this class. You have to be in front of John Maloney, your professor, synchronously, meaning at a particular time every week. And that real time is from 6 o'clock until 8:10 or 8:20, one of those two anyway, for the live class, and then 8:10 or 8:20 until 9 o'clock or so for the office hour session if you want to attend that part. But if you don't have a Mac, that would, if you don't have Access, and I'm requiring Access projects, then you'd have to go outside of your, let's say, your home environment to do all that work, and that's not fair. Okay, it's not fair. So I pulled it, and just to let you know, at the Homestead campus, I'm the lead faculty for NTech. So in CGS2108 classes, I pulled all Access projects from everyone's class, not just my class. Even if it's in person, it's pulled, because I want all students learning the same material. All right. This class is at the North Campus, so whether you're a North Campus student or not, I'm basing it on North Campus rules, and their rules are a little bit different. They use obviously a different learning management system for one, and MyLab IT is a challenge, but in any event, there's no Access projects. All right, so. But you only get literally 2 weeks and a couple days to finish Access. Now that's one thing, okay? And that's if you started it on the day it was available, which was the same day as the Excel exam, which was March the 16th. So, I'm sorry, 3 weeks, but only if you started it then. like from today is March the 23rd when I'm making this recording. 2 weeks from tonight is your Access exam. So yes, you have had access to it, to the Access portion of the class for 1 week now, but obviously probably not too many of you have done it. But again, there's no projects, but there's more trainings. The trainings, so because it's also Access and not many people learn much about Access, even in CGS1060, a lot of the professors perhaps don't really know Access very well. They just don't cover it much. But regardless, I'm starting on chapter 1 and going through chapter 6. That's the only content that Pearson has. So I'm covering every chapter because I figured I might as well start at the beginning. And I'm building a database. Actually, I already built that one, and that video I'm going to play in class on tonight, March 23rd, but I made that video a couple weeks ago. So anyway, this one is just your overview on Access in terms of assignments. So let me just get going. All right, so let's get going, Professor. All right, I'm going to share my screen. All right, so let's go back out here. And in here, I want to go, first of all, to the tentative schedule of activities. Okay, just to show you, again, that it is here. Not that it really matters whether it's here, but, you know, I always tell you, you can get all information on your assignments in my class in this tentative schedule of activities in the class in Blackboard, our class in Blackboard. Right here. And you can also, of course, get it when we go over to the Student Start here and go over to My Lab IT. All right, so so Excel, the Excel exam was last week, March the 16th. Again, I'm basing it on, today is Wednesday, March 23rd when I'm making this video. So Wednesday, March 16th was your Excel exam, but the very same day, technically at 12 a.m. that morning, Access became available. So I don't know what you guys have done in the last week, but it is available, and I always say it's available. Okay. Now the Access exam, excuse me, is Wednesday, April the 6th, which is 2 weeks from today. Again, today being April 23rd, but that gives you 3 weeks for doing the work if you started it on the 16th of March. All right. Okay. And then Access ends, like I said, April 6th, and then we do PowerPoint until about April 25th, and then the exam on PowerPoint's the 26th. All right. Okay, so that is that. Now I'm going to go to Student Start here, where I shall do what I always do, just kind of talk about, you know, where the material is, what the assignments are, just, you know, the usual thing. Okay, so I'll just click on, let's see, course materials. Let me make that a little bit bigger here, maybe. Okay, make it real big just for today. All right. Okay, so that one in there. All right. Now I want to go into, it doesn't matter if I'm in your view or not for this one. So I think when right now I'm in your view. So I'm going to click Access, but again, you see the dates, 3/16 to 4/11. But remember, 4/5 is when everything is due. 4/6 is when the exam will be, and then 4/7 through 4/11 are 20% late penalties for students that weren't able to do it. But you notice where, again, Word was chapters 5 through 8, Excel was 5 through 8. There isn't 7 and 8 in Access, just like there isn't in PowerPoint. So for Access, because it's a harder subject, I'm starting with chapter 1, but I'm going through all 6 chapters. However, the material won't be that difficult, and I'll be doing what I usually do, meaning first of all, I got a 2-hour, well, it's an hour and 54 minutes overview video on demonstrating how to build an Access database. So that will be played in class on March 23rd. And then, of course, you have to do all the training stuff, right? Okay, so I'm going to now click on Access. And remember, when Access then pulls in here, it's everything. So you just remember the dates, 3/16 to 4/11. But everything is officially due on 4/5 at 11:59, except the exam. Now, as always, I haven't made the exam yet. I don't make it till the end, the week leading up to it. So the exam will be 4/6 though, and it'll be shown after this Access Chapter 6 material. All right. All right. So you say, wow, that's a lot of stuff, Professor. Yes, but remember, like it says here, Access Chapter 1 e-text. And then you scroll down, Access Chapter 2 e-text. Scroll down to Access Chapter 3 e-text. So there's 6 of those, right? But you access it all just from this one link. okay? And then there's a chapter 1 audio PowerPoint presentation, which I highly recommend you listen to. And again, it is audio, meaning you don't physically have to read it yourself, you can play it. And when you play things, sometimes it absorbs better because you're not having to concentrate so much on turning the pages and everything else. You just focus on it and you can replay it anytime you want to. So you should for sure read the e-text unequivocally. That's number 1. And then listening to the audio PowerPoints after each chapter is the best way to do it. Okay. And then of course you've got access chapter 1 simulation training. Then you got a simulation practice exam. Then it repeats itself. Chapter 2 e-text, chapter 2 audio presentation, chapter 2 simulation training, chapter 2 simulation practice exam, and then chapter 3, then chapter 4, then chapter 5, and chapter 6. Okay, so what I'm going to do is, of course, start with the book. So I'm going to click on this thing here, right? And normally when I've done this, I tell you that all the content, you know, on the e-text is written underneath it. I'm going to blow this page up to make it bigger. All right. So you see here, we've got our access. This is the table of contents, though. And I always show you the table of contents. So if I'm scrolling down here, in this case, we will be starting with chapter 1. In Word and Excel, we didn't do 1 through 4. Remember, we only did 5, 6, 7, and 8. Why did I say there were? Oh, sorry. Okay, there are, yeah, they do have the advanced chapters. I apologize. But because I have to go back to chapter 1 because so many of you won't have the experience necessary to understand a lot of this work. So I'm only extending it to chapter 6 because I'm going to be covering so many chapters. That's what it was. Okay. But so you're going to be doing chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3, chapter 4, chapter 5, and chapter 6. Okay. So if I click on chapter 1 as an example, then introduction to access, right? Case study, managing a business in the global economy. And then as subsets of that, databases are everywhere. Hands-on exercise databases are everywhere. Filters and sorts, hands-on exercise filters and sorts. Access database creation. I did what I think is a very good database build 2-hour video, or the hour 54 whatever minute video that I've demonstrated to you. But everything that they have text on, in a lot of cases they have a hands-on creation on, right? So if I click databases are everywhere, so objective 1, 2, 3, and 4, open, save, and enable content in a database. So open a database, enable content in a database. That's just clicking that little enable content button. Save a database with a new name. So they're not doing anything in it really. Opening a database, enabling the content means you're clicking a button. Saving the database with a new name, okay? Then another objective though for the same thing in chapter 1, recognize database object types. So the access interface, there's a table datasheet view, there's a table design view. Navigating through records means you're just scrolling from one record to another, to another, to another, okay? Modifying, adding, and saving data. You know, you modify records in a table, meaning you can edit things and then save, and then they resave with the edited information. You can add new records to a table. Most database analysts and most database administrators would never allow their employees to have access to tables. What they would normally do is allow records to be added to a form, and the form ties into the table. So they give access to the form, and by adding records to the form, once the user, quote unquote user, clicks the save button, not only does it save it into that form, but that form automatically saves it to the table. And the table would be on a network server where those people, when they're doing that form, it does see through back on the network side to where the database is, and hide and saves the data in the new records or the edited records into the table. All right. Use database utilities, backing up a database, print information. Real important database utility is relationships. Okay, and they're probably going to talk about relationships in chapter 2 or 3, so I won't bring it up yet. But anyway, so that's those things. All right. And then another objective, work with filters. So, you know, what is a database? Well, so a database is information. It's data. Okay. When you sign in to our class in Blackboard, what happens? So you type in, well, if you're me anyway, you go mdc.blackboard.com. That's how I get in every day, mdc.blackboard.com. Then I have to sign in, okay? Well, signing in is easy. I put my username and I put my password, but that's not an automatic, okay? That's just the user interface where there's a username and there's a password, and then I click the OK or the submit button, whatever it is, or I just hit the enter key and it then takes it or doesn't. But behind the scenes, what's happening is there's a database for mdc.blackboard.com, and one of the tables is password and login information, okay? And everybody's logins for that particular site, mdc.blackboard.com, are housed in a table. Now, maybe that one table is for professors, another is for students, another is for staff. I can't say that, but that's an easy thing to do. But one way or another, you as students and me as a professor, we both still have to sign in. That's all that matters, okay? And the point is that it uses a database to do it, all right? And in the case of students, just to let you know, if you don't sign in correctly, they let you get 3 tries and then you're kicked out. But unlike most databases, most websites where when you put in a username and password, if you get it wrong 2 or 3 times, then you're kicked out for a whole day, sometimes longer. In the case of mdc.blackboard.com, because students obviously are taking classes, so they can't afford to wait very long, right? If they can't get into their classes. So we allow students to try again after 15 minutes. So you have 3 tries and then you're kicked out if you don't get it right in those 3 tries. But after 15 minutes, they're all reset back down to 0 and you get 3 more tries, okay? But anyway, it's a database. And then what happens? Well, let's say you sign in correctly, then where do you go? Well, then you see your classes. So that's another table. That would be called current classes, okay? Or students' classes. It doesn't really matter, but it's a database table, okay? And then your classes, when you click on a class, after you've already been authenticated, meaning you put in your username and your password and you were authenticated, yes, that username is listed here in this table. And yes, that username ties in with the password that he or she entered. So yes, they're allowed in. Then they're on a table with all their classes. There's current classes, previous classes, and upcoming classes once they're set, once you register for them. But under current classes, you may have 1, you may have 2, you may have 3, you may have 4, and perhaps a few students have 5, possibly even 6. But normally it's 2, 3, or 4, maybe 3, 4 would be the more common. So then if you click on a class, then you go to that class. And then everything in that class is also housed in databases. So databases are everything in the world. You go to a website, you go to espn.go.com, if you're trying to check out the Toronto Raptors record, you're trying to, see how they did last night and who they're playing the next night or whatever else, or you want to see the standings, you want to see all the scores, etc. All that stuff is done from databases. Okay, all the history files on the Toronto Raptors are going to be stored in databases. Same with every other team, all the information. So you go to a Walmart site, or you go to a Facebook site, you go to Instagram, it doesn't matter, wherever you go to a Home Depot store if you bought a house and or most of you guys are too young probably for that, but maybe you go to a car dealership, whatever, you're trying to save up for a car that you want and you want to look at different websites for different types of cars and search for cars. It's all done with databases. So everything is a database, all right? So databases are everywhere, unequivocally, all right? Okay, so then we work with filters. So filters allow us to, because you can have literally millions of records in a database. So you don't want to have things that are difficult to find. You want to always be able to filter. And the good thing about databases is we normally store information in the smallest storage available, meaning, as an example, we don't just store full name. No, we don't store full name because that's too much information. The way most, anyway, of course, I got to always say most, Most database administrators and database analysts build tables where they have a first name, a middle initial, and a last name field, 3 different fields of data to represent full name. And when they want to display full name, they use a temporary field and just call it full name equals F name plus MI, or F name plus, and then put a space, double quote, space, double quote, plus MI plus double quote, space, double quote, plus L name. And then the first name, the middle initial, the last name would show up. You also have to have rules. If you have, not everyone has a middle initial, but most people have to have a first name and a last name. Perhaps some Hollywood stars go by one name or whatever. But in my databases anyway, everybody, it's a required field for first name, required field for last name, and an optional field for middle initial. Okay? And you do that for all the information you have. And we also store information in tables, and we equate every table with a noun. What's a noun? Well, it's a person, a place, or a thing. So we don't have tables that represent like a person and his or her favorite destinations and his or her favorite TV show and his or her favorite song, his or her favorite artist, his or her favorite parent, his or her favorite friend. I mean, right? So things can be splintered into a million different directions. But tables, we try to keep them very, very small. Not small in terms of how many records are. We get millions of records in any table, but you don't want to have 10 or 20 fields in most. Like as an example, in the database overview video that I've already now played again as of March 23rd anyway in class, that'll be tonight, where I'm demonstrating that like it's going to be classes and students classes. That's the 3 tables. Well, my classes table is only going to have 2 fields, class code and class name. My students table will have F name for first name, MI for middle initial, L name for last name, and city and major. And I purposefully only put those where normally it'd be first name, middle initial, last name, address 1, address 2. Again, address 1 as opposed to address. Why? Because if you live in an apartment, that's technically, or a condo or a townhouse, whatever, that's technically a different address. So you can't throw it, well, you can throw it all together, but again, it's not efficient. So we store things in its smallest size. So just like we don't store full name, most of us, it's first name, then middle initial, then last name. Then it would be address 1, then address 2, and then city, state, zip, right? And then if you wanted to put that as like an address marker or some such thing, you can then create a temporary field where you throw in all the other values, and that way you can send it out as an example to a email record to send address-wise on a letter. Okay. All right. So anyway, filters and sorts are how we get through information as well. So creating a blank database, I did this in the overview video. I'll show you that video of that field, the thing right now, actually. Let's see if I've got that in here in yours yet, if I put it in here yet. All right, where the heck did I put it? You know, for this one, I did it in 2 classes. I also did it in my, where in the heck? You know what? Let me just go into Excel. Let me just go into here and type search *.accdb. Okay, this is the one I just did. Access example database. So I'll kind of talk about this database as part of what I'm doing right here. Okay. Come on. All right. So remember a few minutes ago when I was reading the very first objective, it said enable content. Well, here's how you enable content, right? It's like in Word and Excel, you click it. All right. So it is here. And then all of my information in this will show up as my all access objects. Okay. What's going on? What in the heck? What in the heck? 3, that's not that one. That was me demonstrating something to a student in an office hour setting. Going here again. Sorry about this. All right. Asterisk. ACCDP. This thing here shows I just opened it, but what is wrong with it? Access example 226. This is when I did it. Okay, now it's here. All right. Anyway, so this thing here has tables, it has queries, it has forms, or a form and a report. Okay, it also has database tools, relationships. So I did this as a complete demonstration of what an Access database is all about. Okay, so I started by talking about classes and how you don't put information in here except the smallest notion of what a noun is. So in this case, nouns. So class code, class name. Class code is the boss field. It's the primary key. Class name describes a noun. What does that make it? An adjective. So adjectives describe the noun. This one here, students, I mentioned, I didn't say student ID, but I said first name, middle initial, last name, major, and city. And these are actually captioned. If I go to the design view, which is this view, here's where I said the F name, MIL name, okay? And I put what they are, but I'm walking you through all this later. And then students classes are allowing me to have students register, just like you guys register either online or you go to your advisor and you register for classes, okay? And then here I have a junk query. Let me shut this thing down, close off. So this thing here is called a junk query, where it's an iteration of everything in table 1, which at the time was classes, against everything in table 2, which at the time was just students. I had 10 records in each, so 10 tens are 100. So what this thing did is it automatically assigned every class to every student. And I likened that in that particular video. I said, this is like garbage in, garbage out. If you're an accounting student, you've heard of that principle. Okay. I said, if you remember high school algebra, you probably remember a term called Cartesian products. And that's what this is demonstrating. It's every class here was assigned to every student here. But that's silly. It's junk. Okay. Then I do a good query. But that's after I create an intermediary table called a join table or a composite table. And you see here, the students I actually signed up for each class are listed, all right? But I'm going to get into this as part of the video. I don't want to go into that now. So my point is I'm covering a lot of the database concepts here without having to go into it. So what I'm going to do, though, is just click on a couple of things that say hands-on because they are important. So hands-on exercise. Databases are everywhere. And let's see what they're going to tell us in here. This will be fairly generic, but I think my video, even though it's going to be 2 hours, is going to cover everything we need to do mostly anyway for this class. What's going on? All right, so open a database. So Northwind purchases food items from suppliers. So this is what they're telling us about this particular database. So it's Northwind. They purchase food items from suppliers around the world. They sell them to restaurants and specialty food shops. Northwind depends on the data stored in its Access database to process orders and make daily decisions. You will open the Northwind database, examine the Access interface, review the existing objects in the database, and explore Access views. You will add, edit, and delete records using both tables and forms. Remember, I mentioned forms. I said we don't normally allow people to access tables directly. It's dangerous. Okay. For one, the person can make a legitimate mistake. And if you allow them to have access to the table, and that table is your real work table, that would be dangerous if they messed it up. So normally we would do it in a form, and the form would save it to the table. But anyway, so then there's a 7-minute video here. I'm not going to play this. You guys, please make sure you play it. All right. Then they're showing here, they're showing you this enable content. They're showing you the tables. They're not showing you queries in that view. In mine, I think I had 4 queries. 1, 2, 3, 4 queries. Okay. They got a lot of forms though, you see, because this is still quite a bit to come down. Because normally you make a form for every table for accessing all that. Where in mine, I only made one form, and this form here is to input new student records. So here were students, okay? And then I demonstrated that you can go into this form, and I added a new record, which is this last one, okay? Missy Mendez as a nursing student from Kendall in my students table. And once I saved it in this form, then it automatically saved as the 11th record in my table. That was just me demonstrating that. So, okay, same thing. So I'm not going to be talking too much about all the things that they have going on here, even though it's very, very important. Everything is always very, very important, obviously, right? So I've already been speaking for about 30 minutes, and I don't want it to go on forever. So, and I'm still literally in chapter 1. So, but you know, all these things are easy. Modifying records in a table, they're just going to tell you, okay, so you have in here, you have dates, you have all these things. Actually, this one here, they're not showing us everything. So they got employee ID, similar to what I had, a last name, a first name. They don't have a middle initial, but that's fine. Then they got a title of courtesy, birth date, hire date, address, city, state. And then they're telling you what you're saying. So they're saying your data replaces Margaret Peacock in record 4. So Margaret Peacock here, you're changing probably her title, okay? And then you're going to save the table, and then that changes the field based on what they're telling you here, okay? So, you know, it's very nice, very, very easy, very manageable, all right? But you just follow along in terms of what's going on, and you can do that, all right? All right. So chapter 2 talks about queries. So, well, tables and queries. So you can create a table in design view, okay? And I demonstrated that again in this video that supports this. I created both of the tables, well, all 3 of the tables in design view. See, this is called data sheet view. If you click the down arrow under the view button, you see data sheet view has like a pinkish background when I'm not hovered on it. That means that's the one we're in. So I make it in design view. So it's saying because I have it open, I can't do this yet. I'm just going to click it and close them all again. So close all, and then right click, and I'll just say in design view. So this is design view of how this was created, okay? But my video is going to explain all that. So you guys are going to get to see that in class on March the 23rd. So by the time you see this video, which will be played in class on March, I guess, 30th, then you'll have already become somewhat familiar with what goes on in Access. All right. Okay. So let me just check my number here and my blood sugar. Oh my God, it's going up right now. I was thinking I was getting the other side. I have to do a quick little thing here. That. Just have to give myself a little bit of insulin. Okay. All right. So I have a pump, so it makes it pretty easy. So anyway, multiple table databases. Almost every database has multiple tables. You can also import Excel data. You can import Access data, meaning access data from another Access database. You can modify a table's design, and you can add data to an imported table. In other words, you can, with Access, if we wanted to, we can get external data up here in this tab, external data. You can get it from Access, which is very common. You can get it from Excel, which is very common. And you also get it from text files, which is very, very common. And why would you get information from Excel, you might ask, and throw it into Access if it's already in Excel? Well, so Excel is what? Remember, we just finished Excel. Technically, you have your exam in Excel. I mean, you had your Excel exam on the 16th, so you have decent understanding of what it is. But basically, Excel does a lot of formulas. It does a lot of calculations. It does a lot of charts, right? So it's doing things that deal with with math. So if it's already done in Excel, you can also do calculated fields in Access, in a database, in all databases. But why redo what's already there? So if the information is available in Excel, we would get that information from Excel and put it into Access, okay, which is a cool and easy thing to do as well. And text files, or if you just have lots and lots of, let's say, record information in a file that you don't want to have to retype, same thing. You can pull information from a text file into the database as well. All right. So all those things can happen. Table relationships, very, very important, and they deal with enforcing and testing referential integrity. So, and I showed you this button up here, and this again is the one that I've got the video on. So this is my database tools, and relationships relate information between tables. Microsoft Access is an RDBMS. That's an acronym which stands for Relational Database Management System. Relational Database Management System. And the relational is that first R in RDBMS, and it comes from these relationships. So the reason I had a junk query here, let me close this down again. Close that. The reason I had this junk query here, gotta close that one too, sorry. Junk query, is because when I created the query, okay, I didn't have any relationships. And when you don't have any relationships, these are talking about relationships between tables, not people relationships, right? So I had a table called classes with class code as a primary key. Okay, primary key is that what this icon is. And students table, and the students table had those fields and a primary key called student ID, but there's no relationship between these two tables. So I had to create a third table called students classes. And in students classes, I created a relationship between classes, a class code from the classes table and student ID from the students table, and then related them together in students classes. And then this is the way I manually, in this case, assigned particular students to particular classes. It's a cool thing. I think you're going to love it. But anyway, database, and by the way, database analytics, that's a huge, huge major these days. Cybersecurity is a huge major these days. Cloud computing is a huge major these days. So it's not just the old-fashioned, and I don't mean this in a bad way, like BSIST, information systems technology is a great major. I mean, mine was information technology, and that was 100 years ago. So it is a great major. And all the programming majors we have, all the networking majors we have, they're all very, very, very good. And same with all schools. I'm not trying to suggest anything one way or another. But my point is that these days, database analytics, though, are huge, or data analytics is what they normally call it. But data always means database. So data analytics heavily deals with working with databases to understand data, find data, filter data, use data. Okay. Cybersecurity, of course, is because we have so many threats these days to the internet, right? Everything's on the internet. Cloud computing, that's Amazon Web Services and Microsoft Azure as the two biggies, competing to see who can get every big company in the world to use their cloud computing platforms. You might say, well, why do they want to do that? Don't they have a data center? Of course they have a data center, but the whole point is it's expensive, especially for smaller companies, to have a data center. Then they have to have a network manager. They got to have computer operators. They have to have all these things that if they were just letting a company like Microsoft Azure, when I say it's Microsoft, but Azure is their cloud computing product, and Amazon is a company, and AWS is their cloud computing product. And they hire people that are called solution architects. I'm a solutions architect associate. I got that certification a couple of years ago with AWS. And it's a very, very big job these days. They have lots of, now they have more, certifications that they do as well. But I got the cloud practitioner, and then I got the solutions architect associate. And the next one would be solution architect professional. I didn't go that far because I'm only teaching 2 classes at Miami-Dade College that have anything to do with cloud computing, and we're having trouble getting students into those classes, right? So there's so many good majors, it's hard for students to know what to do as well. But anyway, so it's all related to data, right? And this database, the few things I just showed you right here are also, if I go back over here to our side, this is only chapter 2, but it's dealing with tables, okay? And then it's dealing with queries. So here's like multi-table queries. So let me show you the queries in that database that I had created. I mentioned I had a junk query. It is multi-table because it's from 2 tables. And I'm taking class name, which is a field from the classes table, okay, and class code, which is a field name from the classes table. And I'm also taking F name, which is first name from the students table, and last name. In other words, I want to know what students' first and last names and what classes are they in. And I told you this was a junk query because when you run it, it shows every student being in every class. So all these with Maloney last name, with Woods last name, with Hadwin, they're all the same classes. She's repeating 1,000 times because they're all in every class, even though we didn't register them for that. The whole point of doing that was to demonstrate, again, what I mentioned to you, that old accounting principle, garbage in, garbage out, all right? And then when it's a good query, go to the view. Now you see I've got the relationships tied in. Here it's the same fields. I want a class code from classes, class name from classes, first name from students, and last name from students. It's exactly the same 4 fields as with the junk query, but now I have this new table. This was the 3rd table that I put in, and this one is called the join table, where up here I have a 1, and here this is the Greek sign infinity, which means many. So it's a one-to-many relationship. What it basically means is in a student's database table, you can only have 1 of every student ID. And I put myself in it as an example. So I said, there may be more than 1 John Maloney in the world, yes, but there's only 1 John Maloney with student ID 1. That's just the way I assigned the numbers, okay, up here. But down here, when John Maloney is taking classes, he, in this case me, could take more than 1 class. So therefore, the student ID has to be able to be repeated many times. So class code, similar to students, class code can only occur 1 time in the classes table, but 1,000 students can take that class code, right? Like right now, how many people are in CGS2108? Unfortunately, really not that many, maybe 17 or so are in the class still. So if it's 17, maybe 16 actually, but whatever it is, if this was the MDC students classes table, which would be similar to, up here you can only have one CGS2108, okay? You can have them 1 CGS1060, 1 everything else. All of your classes can be listed once. But when you relate it with another student's it's creating 2 foreign relationships, foreign keys. So these up here are primary keys, the one with the key, and down here they're primary keys, but combined they're called a foreign key from each of those 2 tables. And that way we allow many students to be in many classes. So then when I run this one again, then it ties those relationships together. So instead of giving 100 records like the junk query did, it gave 16 records because that's exactly how many students I have in students' classes. Not how many students, but how many classes I have. See the record at the bottom, 1 of 16? Okay. Anyway, so that's enough of that, all right? But that's multi-table query. So the same thing, right? And then if you want a hands-on exercise on it, again, just click it to see what it's doing. But it's all going to be easy, and it's all based on what I'm doing, okay? I'm trying to see if they're going to actually have one here. Yeah, see here is what I just showed you, a query. And this query, you see relationships, okay? And then they tell you how to create it, right? So again, here, I've already demonstrated that as well, all right? So all of this has been demonstrated in my my chapters 1 and 2, but in my video, sorry. And then here, query calculations, okay? So, and expressions, the expression builder is just adding information. And this one I didn't do in the video, but I will be glad to demonstrate that. Actually, I'll be demonstrating it from the queries anyway, you know, the training assignments and the simulation training things that I'm going to be doing. So I'll be doing this anyway, okay? And then basic forms and reports. I did a form, I did a report. So just to show you that as well. And that's as far as we're stopping at the select query. So chapter 6. So that basically is enough of an overview for this here, okay? So I'm going to now, I want to make sure I don't get out of too much. I think I got to get out of this one, basic forms, yeah. So let me get out of here, okay? And then again, to remind you, everything is due on 4/5, okay? And now the next video I'm going to do will be to create a demonstration of the first 4, 5, 6, or 7, just depends on how many simulation trainings there are in each chapter. If there are like 15, I'll do for sure 6 or so. I like to do about 40%. If there's 20, I'll definitely do about, let's see, 40% would be 8. Okay, if it's only 10, I'll do about 4, right? But I'll do 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 or 8, depending from each of the simulation trainings, right? And remember, the simulation practice exams are exactly based on those simulation trainings, so they're highly recommended that you do them. And you can do the simulation practice exams. I think it's 3 times each, which is very, very good. But see here, you don't see any projects, okay? And remember, you can view these, not can, but you must view the audio PowerPoint presentations as well. It will definitely help you out, all righty? All right, so let me just see back here if there's anything else I wanted to make sure I do cover. So I'm going to go back to my database, okay, and show you how, I guess, you know, even though I've already done the video, I'll go ahead and just show you a little bit about creating queries. All right, so this is open now. So I'm going to close all. So close all is up there. I didn't do anything, so I'll say no. But actually, you know what? It doesn't matter. I'll just say yes, sure. Because you should always, if you make a change, you want to make sure that you're saving it. All right, so I have some queries, okay? I want to show you what queries are all about, all righty? So let's say down here, I want to do a query on a particular class. So this thing here says MAT 1033 students. So in looking at this, okay, it's showing us, let me make this bigger. Okay, it's showing us which students are in which classes, but only in this case as it relates to MAT 1033. And you might say, so how did I do that? Well, this is the data sheet view. In other words, this is the results view. Again, if I look at from the home tab, the down arrow on the view, you see that the data sheet view one has a pinkish border. Okay, when I go away from it, SQL view and design view do not have that border, but that little pinkish border square around it, that means I'm in data sheet view. I want to go to design view to show you how I make it. So pull this up here. Okay, excuse me. Unfortunately, in the design view, you cannot make the data any bigger. They don't allow me to make it bigger, unfortunately. So what I have is the 3 tables that I put into the query, okay? And these are the fields that I picked: class name, first name, last name, student ID, city, and class code. And then you see there's a criteria row under it. And in the criteria row, I typed MAT 1033 under class code. See, if you type a criteria, you need to make sure that you type it in the right spot. Like if I would have typed MAT 1033 and Control X that under city, okay, excuse me, and I run it, how many records will there be? Well, there'll be 0 because there's no city called MAT 1033. See, it returns the record set. This is called a record set. But there isn't a return of any values because there isn't any. There's nothing to return. Okay, why? Because see, this is the city field up here, and I type MAT 1033. So if I delete that and I type, as an example, Homestead, okay, and I run it, now I'll get records. See, oh yeah, there's 5 students in Homestead. Well, 5 that are taking 1033 or whatever. Oh no, I took away 1033. So 5 students are taking classes, even though 2 of them are the same. Like Ginger Snaps is in 2 classes, is what this means. And then Ted Tobelson is in 2 classes, is what this means. And Cindy Lou is in 1. So it's 3 students from Homestead. But in terms of classes, because of the way I asked for the information, it lists the city 5 times. Okay. If I only want to show Homestead students with CGS2108 as an example, I'd go back to the view. So now I say, okay, find Homestead, and I want CGS2108 as another criteria. So I run it now, and it's only Ginger Snaps because see, she's Homestead and she's taking CGS2108, right? So this is how. This is all about queries and the importance of queries. So to show you other ways I can do it, I'll do it with last name. Okay, so I'll take those 2 away. And with the last name, let me first of all look at my, let me run it. There won't be any well, actually it'll be everything here. So last name, so I got Maloney, Woods, Snaps, Hadwin, Tobelson. Tobelson's a lot of letters. I'll use this one, okay? I'll say, I don't know how to spell Tobelson, but I know it begins with T-O-B, right? So I go over to the view, and remember, that's the last name field. So I got to make sure I go to the last name here. So here's L name is what last name is. Here's the criteria, and I type T-O-B-B-L-E-S-O-N. And I really don't know if that's how I spelled it or not, but let's say it is. And it was, right? I did it that way. But let's go back to it and see how easy it would have been for me to misspell it. Like maybe instead of L-E, I say E-L. Tobelson that way. If there's no records, because there isn't any Tobelson that way. So we use what we call wildcard characters to help. So sometimes you say, well, for sure I know it begins with T. Well, you can say it that way. I know it begins with T. So T and an asterisk. But the thing is here, there may be a million students, right? So out of the million students, there's probably at least 10 or 15,000 of them that begin with the letter T. In this case, of course, I only have 10 students. I don't remember if there's any other T's, but let's see. Last name. Oh, I didn't put, I put a, this is what I'm typing, T asterisk. I don't have to type double quotes, and I explain why in my video, but basically Access adds double quotes to any time you're using a string character, okay? What I typed here is T and an asterisk. What that means is, for criteria, what that means is, and this is similar to how I told you Excel thinks. Well, Access thinks the same way. Access says, I think you want all student last names that start with the letter T, and you don't care what comes after it. It could be 10 words or 10 letters, 12 letters, 3 letters, whatever. And I say, yep, that's what I want. So I run it, and you see Tobelson is the only one that shows up. So now I go back to it again, and I'll just show you and keep making that one work. So now I'll say T-O asterisk. Okay. Obviously, it's still going to work, right? T-O. I'll go in again, and now I'll say T-O-B. Okay. So T-O-B asterisk. Run it again. Yeah, it's still going to work, right? It will work as long as I keep doing it right. But I'll now get it wrong, and I'll put an E. No, sorry. The next one is another B. Let me go back to the C again. Yeah, the next one's another B, but I'll just say E. Okay, so T-O-B-E. Well, this one, there's no records again, right? So, but that's the way wildcards work, because sometimes you don't want just a person, but you might want certain things. You know, it might be you're interested in finding any students that have a particular last name, okay? You may be interested in finding any students that live in a certain city. And if you only have city-wise, it's easier on city again. Sorry, let me go back here and take away this one again, okay? And over here in the city, for like Homestead as an example, I can say H asterisk, right? And that'll return Homestead. But if I had other students, it would return, like if there's a town in Miami-Dade or Broward that begins with an H. Let's see, H. I don't know any. So I'll pretend that well, it doesn't matter if I pretend. But anyway, so if I type though like HA and then anything else, well, there is no HA, so again, it won't return anything, right? But the point of using wildcards is it lets you get information with typing less. And it's good if you're only looking for certain things, okay? Not specifically, maybe in this case, Homestead, but you say, I know I have a student and I know that kid's name is H-O-M, but I really don't know what the last name is. Is it Homer? Is it Homstatler? I don't know, but I know for sure it begins with H-O-M. I mean, I'm talking about a student or a city. It doesn't matter what I'm talking about. But if you're convinced, I know it begins with, that's the cool thing about a wildcard. You can use that wildcard that way, all right? Like VB programming. You can say, you know what? I don't know what VB programming's class is called, but I'm certain it's got VB in it. So I do asterisk, VB, asterisk. That means I don't know what this class name is. I think I wrote it as Introduction to VB Programming or something. But I don't know, but I know VB are going to be in it as consecutive text. So I don't need the like Homestead now, get rid of that. So run this one, and now it's going to show intro to VB. See, it's in the middle. But because I started it with an asterisk, the asterisk means I don't care what this word or words starts with. I don't care. And I don't care what it ends with. I do not care. But I'm looking specifically for two letters, and those two letters are VB, as in short for Visual Basic. Like if you did it for RO, right? There may be 1,000 returns. If you did it with TO, obviously, for sure, there'd be, especially with a database with hundreds or thousands of records, you'd find dozens, if not hundreds of records, right? But there's not a whole heck of a lot of words that you would have that would have a V and a B as consecutive text, okay? But if you're looking for things that way, then you can do it this way, all right? And VB. Access will always add a like clause, L-I-K-E. You don't have to type the like clause, but that's why it has like on the end of it now, all right? Okay, but now this was called, this particular query was, yeah, Mat 1033. So I want to put it back the way I had it, okay? So get rid of this, delete that, go back over here to class code and type MAT 1033 and run it again. That's the way it was at the beginning, so I'll save it, okay? I also mentioned that you can add other records. Let's see, some of these things I don't teach Access that much anymore. I mean, I've used Access for 100 years. I know it extremely well. I actually was writing a book on Access back in 2009. And I just said, God, it's just, there's so much to write. And I stopped. It killed me to this day. I had like 76 pages. And I said, oh my God. But anyway, so I forget things. And I have to like Google things to look up too. But I'm going to try to create a query now that I was doing the other day in the video. And it was one that I'd forgotten about. So let's see over here. I'm going to create a query. So I'm going to close this thing. Okay, close. And I want to create a query. And this is going to be a simple one. I'm going to do query design. And I only want it to come from the students table. Okay, because I only want to see students. And I want to see if I can demonstrate how I can do this. I couldn't do it in my video because I'd forgotten. If I don't do it now, I'll show you how you can just Google it, how easy it is. All right. Okay, so if I want like first name, middle initial, and last name, I just double click them in that order, and they're all going to be now, they're all showing up in this query. Okay, remember, I clicked create and I clicked query design, and this is where I am. And then on this add tables on the right side, I only wanted the students table. But now what you're going to see is the first name, the middle initial, and the last name of students. But if I want to now create a full name alias, okay, I'm going to go back to design view, and over here, I'm going to say full name. I think you do it this way. Full name. And this is what I forget afterwards. So full name with a left bracket, a right bracket. So that's the field, I think. And then down here, let's see now, full name. Okay, so actually, I think up here, I have to then type it out. So I want to now say full name, F name, plus space, plus MI, plus space, plus L name. Okay, let's run that and see if it gives me anything. No, invalid syntax. Why? Oh, F name, I didn't spell F name. I put F name. F name. No, I did have it. Dang it. F name plus that. Run it again. I'm going to just go over here. Let's see what this thing is. Full name. F name. Oh, I think what it got to actually do is, I think these have to be, yeah, these have to be in the brackets. F name plus that plus MI, so that's got to be in brackets. And then close the bracket, and then L name with brackets, oops, left bracket, right bracket. Let's see if that one will run. No, it's close. It's definitely close. Yeah. Let me, so that you guys can see this, I'm going to put this in a Word or a Notepad file. Control copy. All right, that's my video that I just shown you guys, or I'm going to be showing you guys. Let's see. All right, so full name. Maybe here I don't do the, God, maybe if I take away that there, then F name plus space plus MI plus space plus L name. Let's see if I do it that way. So full name, I'm going to get rid of that. Say instead, full name. I think I put the colon, but I don't do anything else. All right, so that, let's see. All right, run it that way. Hey, there, I finally got it. Okay. All right. So see, then what I did is I created a full name and I have it that way. Okay. Now I didn't need to do it that way. I also could just not have had these fields. All right. So let's go back to the design view. So I can get rid of this one as an example. So get rid of F name, get rid of MI, get rid of L name. And now I have just this. Okay. And I can move this one, but let's see if I can move that there. Okay, so now if I run it, you won't see those anything except the full name. Okay. All right. Not sure why I have those gaps, but anyway, that's okay. But that's what that thing can do. All right. So I should now go back to design view. But really, I like it better the other way. So let me move this over. Let's see. Put here F name again. Here MI again, and here L name again. And now I want to move that the way I had it. Actually, yeah, I'll leave it this way this time. Let's see what it looks like. All right. Okay, so here, oh, you know what? I'm missing some names. What is wrong? Oh, okay, I got it. Oh, okay. See, what's happening is like Tiger Woods, I said the middle initial was optional. So because I'm asking for it, if they don't have it, then they can't put that full name because I made the full name include middle initial. So those that don't have a middle initial don't get it. Okay. So in other words, if I go back over here and I take out the middle initial part, so then this, and get rid of that, and just make it last name, now they'll all be there. Okay. So John Maloney, Tiger Woods, Adam, blah, blah, blah. The 10 students with their first name, I still put the middle initial here and the last name, but I didn't use the MI in here because this is optional, and I purposefully had optional where some students didn't have the name, and in this case, this was also optional. Okay, so anyway, so I'll save this query now as a good query, so I shall save it, and I'll call it full name query. So now I have another query under my queries, full name query. I don't have it in the video though, okay? All right. Now, if I wanted to just do something to demonstrate simple math, I could do that too, but I don't have the information in the tables to do it, so maybe I'll come back to this later on. So now I'm going to say save that, get out of that, and then I'll go ahead and say that this video is over. All right? So go back here. All right, so I hope you learned something. I hope you know what you have to do. You have until April the 5th to finish Microsoft Access, okay? Your 6 trainings, not 4, but 6 trainings, but 0 projects. And again, you should do each training 3, 4, 5, or 6 times. The more times, the merrier, because that way you'll definitely be in great shape to get 100 on the exam. And also make sure you do the practice simulation exams, because those are like the exam in that you get a certain number of tries. I think it's 3 tries on each task. But unlike in the other, where if you get it wrong 5 times, it then tells you what to do on the exam, it would then mark it as wrong if you didn't do it in either 2 or 3. I forget how many tries I gave you, but I think it's 3. All right. But anyway, so that's all due on April 5, and then April 6th will be your exams. All right. So I hope you have a great day. I'm going to stop my recording.